What it do? Crispy crew. Alright, so at the first attempt of not cursing in my videos, which might sound crazy to most, but yes, I have an issue of cursing in my videos. Who would have thought? Apparently, I say the N-word too much. Do with that what you will. No, today's video is just going to be another continuation of revisiting the classics. And this one's going to be a bit more of a shorter one again because I don't really have a whole lot to say, but I did just go through it and I want to talk about it a little bit. It is Love is Rage 2 by Lil Uzi Vert. Love is Rage 2 is one of those Jones where it's like, okay, you can tell off the rip that this is definitely his his sophomore album, right? Because he's dropped a studio album with, I want to say, the Perfect Love tape, even though I don't know if they called it a mixtape or an actual studio album, but I do remember him dropping that during that time. And I remember vividly, I remember vividly, like, they were talking about this album like it was going to be like his real introduction to the mainstream. Because when Lil Uzi was dropping songs left and right, he was still bubbling up. He was an up-and-comer. He was rising, you know? That's how they described Lil Uzi Vert. So then when they finally decided to basically change how they speak about Lil Uzi Vert as a whole, it was very much refreshing. And this was the first instance of Lil Uzi Vert being basically the mainstream icon that we see today. Love is Rage 2 released during my middle school time. So it was during a time where I was trying so hard to fit in and things of that nature. So I didn't really like fully actually encapsulate what I liked about this album to the highest it was supposed to be. It was more of I was really hyped because I seen a lot of my friends was hyped about this album, right? And then I actually listened to it. I'm like, okay, I genuinely did like it, but my biggest takeaways for some reason were the songs 444 plus 222 and Unfazed by The Weeknd, which, don't get me wrong, I love both of those songs. But this album and the deluxe that soon followed after had so much more to offer, in my personal opinion, right? Like, if you ask me personally, like, I do think that Lil Uzi Vert, like, everything that you might like about Lil Uzi Vert as an artist, I feel like was showcased almost perfectly on this album. You know, all the way down from production, from his flows. I'm not going to sit here and say that Lil Uzi is an amazing lyricist, but he had some clever bars in here, some clever rhyme schemes. Generally, Lil Uzi Vert is been showing to be a versatile artist in many different shapes and forms, and Love is Rage 2, I think, encapsulates that in such a high degree. Like, there isn't really a time on this album, no matter what time I've listened to, where I'm not genuinely intrigued by either the instrumental, how he's flowing on said instrumental, or genuinely just what he's talking about. It's not mainstream, you know. His way of doing things is more closer to rock star like at mannerisms than it is to an average person walking down the street. That's the best way to describe how he was feeling about his emotions, let alone love, which is also a double entendre for his name as the acronym Lil Uzi Vert. You know, love, Lil Uzi Vert, things of that nature. It's very much basic wordplay, but it's wordplay that works nonetheless. Nonetheless, at the very least, let's just go with that. I think that there was an unintentional story that was told throughout this album. The reason why I say unintentional is that my personal takeaway with the album was more of something that might not have been originally planned. You know, I believe that when you look at the intro track 2 to the final track, at least on the deluxe, at least if we're looking at the deluxe, at least if we're looking at the final track of the deluxe, which is 20 minutes, it feels like there was an entirely roller coaster, and it feels like that the album itself was a concert. You know, like, I don't know if that makes the most sense, but it feels like the album itself had the energy of a concert. It felt like that he was going through a track list, essentially, you know, or a set list. That's how it feels, at least. You know, I don't know if that was his intention, but it genuinely feels like that this album really showcased just how much of a performer he truly is, which, if you go to his concerts, you can even tell how much of a performer he really is. And I really do like that the most about Lil Uzi's music. in my personal opinion, the standout tracks for the highest point would have to be Feelings Mutual, Pretty Mommy, Loaded, Diamonds all on my wrist, and 20 minutes. Definitely definitely a lot of songs. It's 20 songs total, and I don't think that he's missed once. The only song that I can give people that I feel like he genuinely missed on was probably For Real. That's the only song I'll give. Every other song that he has made on this album, I genuinely think was in conversations to be some of his top songs. I really do think that Lil Uzi Vert was really in his bag when he made this, and I would not recommend it any other way. Like, if I had to recommend any album of Lil Uzi Vert to like start into get into his music, it would be Lil Love Is Rage 2. That being said, like this video for more, please. It does go a long way. Comment down below if you did listen to this album. What were you thinking were some actual standout tracks? And on top of that, be sure to just subscribe to the channel if you like seeing these. I'm going to be doing a lot more anyway, so definitely come along with the ride. I'm definitely going to make it a whole different playlist as well when I get the chance, so stay tuned out for that as well. In the meantime, I'm going to have to catch y'all in the next one.